Going on, everybody? It's Key Time coming back with another one to talk about game twos that happened last night between the Phoenix Suns, Minnesota Timberwolves, LA Clippers, Dallas Mavericks, and Indiana Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the first series I want to talk about is the Phoenix Suns and Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, like I've said, the Phoenix Suns, they've had trouble defending all season. But last night, the Minnesota, they led by as many as 17 points, just like game one. And even though that Anthony Edwards, he didn't have a good game, but it was somebody that came off the bench and totally dominated. And his name is Jaden McDaniels, who is also a legitimate scorer for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, we all know what happened last year with him. He wasn't able to go because he broke his hand. But in last night's game, he had a breakout game. He had 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. Everybody else, they had an okay game, a decent game. Anthony Edwards had 15 points. Rudy Gobert had 18 points, and Karl Anthony Towns had 12 points. Now, one thing about it, the bench for the Minnesota Timberwolves stepped up last night. And not just last night, they stepped up in game one. So everything is on the table for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are able to score at will. If they starting five don't show up, the bench carries the load, and that is exactly what they did last night. Here are a couple of their bench scores that had good stats. Mike Conley Jr. had 18 points. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 10 points. So if the bench is doing great, the bench is almost did the bench they did good as the first five did. Now, as far as for the Phoenix Suns, they got a tough road now because you down 0-2. You got 2 games at home. You've got to win both of those games to even the series, to even have a chance at it going 5, 6, or even the full 7 games. Now let's see. We've had a lot of chatter over the last couple of weeks about, can the Phoenix Suns hold on to a lead in the fourth quarter? It's hard to have a lead when you always giving up points on down. There was about maybe 5 or 6 times where I seen in last night's game where the Phoenix Suns gave up a wide open shot, to whether it was Jaden McDaniels, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley Jr., or their bench players. There was a lot of confusion when it came to the Phoenix Suns defending. Now, when it comes to their scoring, I mean, when you look at it, Devin Booker had 20 points. Eric Gordon had 15. Kevin Durant had 18. Grayson Allen only had 3 points. Yusef Nurkic had 10. Bradley Beal had 14. So it's decent scoring, but like I've been saying, if the starting five don't play perfect for the Phoenix Suns, they don't have a chance to win this series because you barely have bench production coming off the bench. The only bench points you had last night was 10 points. That's all. Now against the Minnesota Timberwolves, you've got them averaging, let's see, throughout the series, just 2 games, they've averaged 27 bench points. So you know they have a pretty good bench. And let me tell you how many points that the Phoenix Suns have been averaging. 15. and they got 15 last night. Now, as far as from what I see, the ineptitude of defending on the defensive side of the court has hurt the Phoenix Suns in this series already. Now, for the Phoenix Suns, they just gonna have to outscore the Minnesota Timberwolves. But one thing, they are going to have a hard time outscoring the Minnesota Timberwolves because the Minnesota Timberwolves, they are able to defend. They are able to, just like they were able to defend Booker and Durant last night. They've done that for 2 games. I predicted that the Minnesota Timberwolves would win this series, but I said in 6 games. It may be quicker than that. If the Phoenix Suns don't win Game 3, the series is over. That's exactly what I'm saying. Are the Phoenix Suns done? If they don't win Game 3, the series is done, over. And it will look bad for Kevin Durant to get swept. And Devin Booker, it would look bad for Devin Booker to get swept because he is the cornerstone. He has been the cornerstone of the Phoenix Suns ever since 2015. He's been the cornerstone. And for the last couple of years, it has been to the NBA Finals, lost in the NBA Finals to Milwaukee. Last year, got to the playoffs and lost. And the year before that, you got blown off your home court by the Dallas Mavericks. So they have been right there for the last 3 to 4 years, but haven't been able to break in the door, haven't been able to close the deal, and they are in trouble. And I think the Minnesota Timberwolves, they'll be able to close out this series in less than 6 games. Moving on to the next series, the Indiana Pacers and Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I watched the entirety of this game too. When it comes, I knew that Indiana, they were going to bounce back after the lackluster performance they had in Game 1. Tyrese Halliburton, I knew he was going to get all of the attention just like he did in Game 1. But Pascal Siakam had a career high with 37 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. Now, the Indiana Pacers, they are going home. They are the best offense in the NBA, the highest shooting team in the NBA. And then you have the Milwaukee Bucks who have struggled on defense defending teams. Now, Indiana, they have also struggled too, but Indiana, they have a team where they can outscore you, and if they get to 100 points, they basically won the game. Last night, they got to 100 points before the start of the 4th quarter. I said game over. At the start of the 4th quarter, it was 102 to 88, and I had said this game is going to be over. And plus, you didn't have a good game from Tyrese Halliburton. He only had 12 points and 4 rebounds because that was the defense for the Milwaukee Bucks was so focused on him. He was bringing double teams, and he would throw it to Pascal Siakam, Aaron Naismith, or Andrew Nabar, which was another guy who had 20 points last night and helped the Indiana Pacers get this win. Now, as far as for the Milwaukee Bucks, Damian Lillard, he had 34 points last night. I knew that he was going to have a game similar to Game 1. Chris Middleton, he had 15 points and 5 rebounds. Bobby Portis had 14. Brook Lopez had 22. Now, if they were playing anybody else, they would have won that game last night. But since you have trouble defending players on defense, and all of a sudden what is the Pacers' bread and butter. They do the pick and roll action. They like to draw double teams, mainly Tyrese Halliburton. He is so ball dominant, so he is going to have most of the attention. The Indiana Pacers, they like having 2 or 3 guys coming to Halliburton. That way he can throw it out to his teammates and they can have wide open shots. Now it's up to them to make those wide open shots. The difference between game 1 and game 2 is Tyrese Halliburton drew double teams, but his teammates wasn't making open shots. They made open shots last night and they were able to get the win. Now the Pacers, they are coming home for game 3 and 4. The Milwaukee Bucks, they are a good road team, but you are playing against the Indiana Pacers, a team all throughout the regular season has given you problems when they play at home in Indiana. And I expect for the Pacers to come out in games 3 and 4 and give a knockout punch. To give a knockout punch. But as far as from what I'm seeing from the Indiana Pacers right now, they can win this game. They can win this series in 5 or 6 games. And that's all I have for the Indiana Pacers and Milwaukee Bucks series. The next series I want to talk about before I get out of here is the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Clippers. Now, the difference between game 1 and game 2 in this series is the Dallas Mavericks, they were able to defend and not let too many wide open shots, not let the Clippers have too many wide open shots. And plus, Kawhi Leonard, he made his return last night. So, what I seen from the Dallas Mavericks is I seen a team come out and basically give out the first couple of punches to the Clippers, and before you know it, the Mavericks, they were already up by 8 or 9 at the end of the first quarter. Now, what I saw from the Clippers, they really wasn't. Now, Paul George and James Harden, they really didn't have that instinct, that aggressive instinct that they had in game 1. Because Kawhi Leonard came back, they were basically passing the ball and deferring it to Kawhi Leonard most of the time. And just like I said, him coming back off of injury, he's still trying to get acquainted to his body, still trying to get acquainted. And plus, this is game 2 of the playoffs. So the game plan from game 1, it was different from the game plan in game 2 last night since Kawhi Leonard came back and played. But Kawhi Leonard, he had a decent game. He had 15 points, 7 rebounds. Paul George had 22 points, 2 rebounds, and James Harden had 22 points and 6 rebounds. But where the Clippers lost this game was lack of defense. When it comes to the Dallas Mavericks, I'm going to tell you, not Nikola Jokic, I'm thinking about Denver. But Luka Doncic, he had a bounce back game. He had 32 points and 6 rebounds. Kyrie Irving, we already know that he is going to average his usual 20 to 25 points. He was able to get 23 points and 6 rebounds last night. But the bench for the Dallas Mavericks stepped up. P.J. Washington had 18 points and 6 rebounds. Derrick Jones Jr. had 10 points and 7 rebounds. And also Maxi Caliber, he had 6 points and 6 rebounds. And also Derek Levy II, he had 7 points and 9 rebounds. And also, as far as rebounds concerned, Dallas Mavericks had more rebounds than the Clippers did, and that is a role reversal from game one. And as far as bench points, Dallas had more bench points than the Clippers. So now it's going to take some time for Kawhi Leonard to get acquainted in this series. I expect for him to have a better game in game four. But as I said before this series started, I had Dallas winning, and I'm not going to back off of that prediction. But this was a bounce back game. Now we are going to see how the Clippers fare in Dallas, because they've lost a couple of games in Dallas back in the regular season. But this is the playoffs. So things are different in the playoffs. And after games 1 and 2, the game plans are not much different after the first 2 games of a basketball playoff series. It's just a matter of stopping what your opponent does, what they do best. What is their strength? It's a matter of if you can stop it, how many times you can stop it in order to win the game and the series. That's all it is at this point. For all of these series, that's all it is at this point. What your opponent does consistently and often, can you stop that? That's all it is. And for that, those are my reactions to the game 2s last night between the Phoenix Suns, Minnesota Timberwolves, Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks, and the Dallas Mavericks and LA Clippers. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Click the notification bell to get notified of all of my shows, reaction videos, content, and etc. And remember, I always tell y'all one thing. Remember, the key is always on time.